Very good morning, all of you. Thank you, Dr. Saigal, my panelist member, Mr. Rahul, Dr. Poonam, Dr. Sarika, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries, and very good morning, all of you. So, myself, Dr. Mahendra Thackeray, presently I am working with Mylan Laboratories. So, after serving with Dr. Reddy's Laboratories for more than a decade, so recently I moved to Mylan Laboratories. So it's in line with our topic that litigation in the pharmaceuticals. So in earlier two sessions, we have discussed that how the innovator, they tweak into their patent strategy to get the delay in the generic entry, and then also the role of Section 3D basically into initiation of the litigations and how it has been handled by the patent office and the court of law. So in a similar fashion, just I wanted to touch upon a few thoughts relating to these biosimilar patent litigations. Especially in the United States. Because as we are aware that as a generic company, we have a lot of experience, a lot of debate with respect to our ANDA litigation. So we have that good hands on the ANDA litigation. And the upcoming area into the field of pharmaceutical science is now the biosimilars, wherein the market is growing like anything, almost more than $30 billion is a biosimilar market. And a lot of companies, they are investing a huge amount of revenue for developing that particular or coming into those particular segments. So the basic difference between the small molecule and the biosimilar, because why it is not called as a copycat version or exactly the same version of the innovator molecule? Because it has a huge complexity into their manufacture, into their characterizations and into their structure. And that's what it has been called as the biosimilar, not the same. But take the example of the small molecules wherein the molecular structures which can be very well defined and it can be reproduced exactly. So there are fixed provisions by the regulatory authorities, US regulatory authorities to define and to approve such particular products. But the biosimilars was a gray area wherein there was not much visibility and the basic regulatory framework. So in that particular context, the specific legislation, that is BPCIA, has been enacted in the US in 2010 and followed by a certain guidelines which has been published in 2013. So which has given a very specific way that how a generic company, as a biosimilar company, how we should strategize, we should approach and develop our product and be a similar product into the market. So the basic difference between the small molecule and the biosimilar molecule, because basically as a technically if you see that probably a small molecule, these are the chemical compounds, and then if you go further, it comes to the peptides, is basically the amino acid sequence compound. And generally we consider that any compounds or amino acid sequence up to the 14 amino acids, we call it as a peptide, and still it has been classified under the normal ANDA provision. But the once molecule gets more complicated, the number of amino acids or the number of basic compounds into the chemical sequence, it has been increased, then the complexity of the reproducibility changes, and that's what those particular compounds classified under the biosimilar compounds. So the best example is the insulin, which is having 51 amino acid. So that is the start of the biosimilar, and any molecules which is higher comes under the biosimilar. So basic problems with the biosimilar, that it has been very difficult to characterize, and the reproducibility, that is another problem. And it's very difficult to just switch that particular compound from the innovator compound. So it's not a mere substitution to the innovator compound, which we do in case of the normal ANDA molecule. So therefore, very specific legislations or the guidelines which has been proposed by the regulatory authorities, and also a certain provision which has been enacted. And those particular guidelines which gives a certain certainty, that certain timelines through which you can strategize the development of your product considering the patent landscape, and probably you will have a certain visibility that when you can be into the market. So that's the purpose of this particular biosimilar provision. So if you just compare with the ANDA litigations with respect to this biosimilar litigation, so there is no concept of orange book, because as you are aware that for any product which we have to file a dossier in the US regulatory authorities, so we have to look for the what is the molecule which has been approved, which has been listed into the orange book. So there is no patent listing into the orange book. There is a separate provision, they made that purple book, wherein the information relating to biosimilar molecules which has been given. Then second thing is that the litigation process which has been laid down or established with respect to the ANDA molecule, so it's not a similar like in the biosimilar molecule, because there is no, you can say that there is no 30-month stay, and then the procedure is little bit complicated and difficult one. So let us have the few provisions under this particular BPCI Act that the innovator product that is called as the reference product sponsor, that is the RPS. And the biosimilar molecule, the definition of the biosimilar molecule, that it is basically a same in terms of the chemicals, in terms of the safety, and then probably efficacy wise also it has to be matched with the innovator. But still it has not been considered the same molecule, it has been considered the biosimilar molecule. So in addition to the biosimilar molecule, one more step which has been defined under the statute, that is the interchangeable. So it is a higher degree version of the biosimilars. So if you look at the interchangeable molecule, it is basically the first criteria that it should be biosimilar. And the second criteria is that in case we try to substitute that particular product with the innovator product, then there is no such comparable risk as compared with the RPS products. So that's what that is called as the interchangeable product. And for that there is a specific provision or a specific exclusivity which has been given by the regulatory authorities. So here, if you look at the litigation, that how we should approach to the launch of a biosimilar molecule, and basically how you strategize a basic litigation, what sorts of patents or the IP which may be enforced into this particular under the BPCI litigation, that we are going to see in the coming slides. So basically that biosimilar provision, that the biosimilar application, that is the abbreviated BLA application, which has been our that generic sorts of application, that has been filed under section 351K, and the section 351K has laid down a certain provision. So here in biosimilar there are two phases of litigation. One is the first phase of litigation, and there is another phase of litigation that is called as the second phase of litigation. So there is not much litigation with respect to the biosimilar because the law has recently enacted, the guidelines has been recently published for the common public. But still there are 2-3 litigations which has been happened in the US, and that has given a certain light that how we should strategize and what are the standards basically we should look forward for the biosimilar litigations. Sorry? It has been basically passed in 2010 in the US. So it has been started from 2009, it has been passed in 2010, and the guidelines which have been published in 2013. So exact enforcement probably you can say that from 2013, wherein the generics company or the biosimilar company, they got some visibility to enter into the market. And from that particular point of time, 2-3 litigations which has been happened, so that also we'll try to cover quickly in this particular presentation. So the biosimilar applications comes under section 351K, that is the litigation process. So wherein there is a concept that is called as the patent dance. So that is a very new concept with respect to the biosimilar one, because there has been continuous exchange or the negotiation of the patents with the innovator company. That's not the case in the ANDA litigations. In ANDA litigations, you have to visit the Orange Book, you have to see that what are the patents which are listed into Orange Book, and there are certain guidelines are there that which patent has to be listed in Orange Book, and accordingly we have to file a specified certification to make early entry to the market. But in case of the biosimilars, there is no specific provision that which patent that innovator is going to assert. So therefore, once your biosimilar application is ready, then you have to go to the regulatory authorities, you have to file file your biosimilar application with regulatory authorities. And once the regulatory authorities, they take your application on record for examination, so then your timelines has been started. And these are the statutory timelines, probably it may be complied or it may not be complied, because there are some certain sorts of controversial decision which has been came up with respect to the biosimilar litigation. So once your dossier has been filed, it has been accepted for the examination, then within 20 days period of time, you have to notify to the innovators, that is called as the RPS. And then RPS, you have to inform that such and such particular application has been filed. And in response to that particular application, then RPS, he will identify a relevant patent. So RPS will get a 60 days period of time that he will identify the relevant patent. So before that, you have to share that some certain information relating to your biosimilar product. So what is the process and what is the form of this particular product. So accordingly, innovator carry out analysis and they will identify a relevant patent and they will inform to the biosimilar applicant that these are the patents which we feel that these are relevant for the product which you have been filed before the regulatory authorities. So once you receive or once the biosimilar applicant, they receive those particular information relating to the patent, then it's a time for the rebuttal. So he will say that this is my product and then I believe that all the patents may not be relevant. If it has been relevant, then you have to identify certain grounds for the invalidity or certain arguments for the non-infringement. And then again you get a time around 60 days to reply to the innovator. So again the ball goes into the innovator's court. So again the innovator or RPS, they will analyze your arguments basically relating to the invalidity, relating to the non-infringement, and again they will reply back in another 60 days period of time to identify that these are the most relevant patent which they wanted to assert. So that's what all this particular process is called as the patent dance, because the patents keep on moving from the biosimilar applicant to the RPS, that is the sponsor. So that terminology, that legal terminology which has been used, that is called as the patent dance. And at the final stage, once the innovator or the RPS, he rebuts further, then it comes to the particular stage that is called as the negotiation stage, wherein both the party, they sit together and they come to the conclusion that, okay, these are the patents they wanted to assert in the first phase and that has to be litigated. So suppose that biosimilar applicant identified 2 patents, then probably the innovator will have chance to add 1 more patent or something like that. And they arrive at some particular list of patents which are more relevant. So what sorts of patent basically which may covers here? So any sorts of patent basically which may be relevant or which the RPS they may consider, that any patents which covers the DNA, gene sequence, protein, polypeptide, composition of matter, method of use, and also the manufacturing process. Because in biological product, the manufacturing process is key. Because even a small change into the parameters, so it changes the complete characterizations of your particular drugs. And also there may be problem or there may be chances that there has been drastic reduction in the potency. So these are the more important patents which has to be taken care in the first phase of litigation. So once they come to the consensus that these are the patents, they feel it relevant, then the first phase litigation start, wherein the initial patents that can be knocked out. And again the few information that for biosimilars, the first time, that the day on which you can file your ABLA application, that is after 4th year of approval of a innovator's product or the sponsor's product. And there has been exclusivity for the 12 years. So within 12 years, the product may be approved and then you may be in a position to launch your product after the 12 years. So earliest time is the 4 years, by which you can target that particular date and you can file your biosimilar application. Then there is another stage of litigation that is called the second stage of the litigation. So in the first stage, once you file your dossier and you come to the consensus that these are the relevant patent which needs to be litigated, then you start that particular litigations and then clear those particular IP landscape. And then second stage of the litigation, that is called the late stage of litigations, wherein before marketing, once you get this market authorization, so before marketing of your ABLA product, that biosimilar product, 180 days before you have to again inform to the innovator that this is the approval I got and then within next 6 months I am going to launch this particular product, which will trigger the second phase of litigations, wherein innovator may be in a position to identify additional patents. They may be in a position to reinforce or enforce additional patents. And probably a certain patents, they have been licensed from the other company, that is the exclusive license, because basically you can assert the exclusively licensed patent to the biosimilar company, but not that co-license or something like that. So that is another requirement relating to the assertion of patent. So though you are not actually innovator, you have license, you have an exclusive license for a particular patent, then that particular patent may be asserted into the late phase of litigations. So another difference between A&A litigation and this litigation, that there is no 30-month stay. So even the late phase litigation has started, the regulatory authorities, they can go ahead and they can give the necessary approval for your particular product. So only the remedy that innovator may have or the sponsor company they have, they can ask for the injunction, preliminary injunction, because the product has been approved, innovator is supposed to come into the market. So they can ask for the necessary injunction. So that is the remedy which has been available with respect to innovator company. And next, come to these few cases basically which has been happened with respect to the biosimilar. And again, as a strategy, because in these biosimilar litigations, there are fixed timelines, and then probably there has been huge complexity into the chemical structure, characterization of the compound. So therefore, since you have already you have already 4 years, or probably you are planning to have a particular biosimilar application, then in those particular cases, you have to identify the relevant patent, you have to make the invalidity ground, and you have to do the thorough search for your particular product. And almost whatever the possible patents that innovator likely to assert, you have to identify in the beginning itself, so that you will have a substantial time to make any rebuttal arguments to the innovator after the assertion of those particular patents. So this is the strategically, basically we need to keep in mind. So here, 2-3 important things are there. One is the requirement of the patent dance, that is the statutory requirement under section 262 of this particular 42 USC biosimilar provision. And then second requirement is that one has to send a notice to the sponsorer company that they wanted to launch this particular product in the next 180 days. So these are the two important requirements which has been there into this particular biosimilar provision. And both these particular requirements has been challenged before the court of law. So there are couple of litigations which has been happened. The first litigations which has been happened in this particular matter, that is the Amgen versus Sandoz, wherein that Sandoz was developing this particular product, and before filing a dossier, that biosimilar applications, before the regulatory authorities, they knocked the door of the court and they identified that there are some pending applications or certain patents, and they want that declaratory action judgment or declaratory judgment with respect to those particular patents. So as we are aware that relating to that law relating to declaratory action judgment, so there is a standard that there has to be controversy. Certain issue relating to the controversy has to be there. So here in this particular matter, the court has considered that since the biosimilar applicant did not file its application before the regulatory authority, so there is no case of controversy. So therefore, there is no likelihood of any launch of this particular product or something like that. And therefore, no injunction has to be, or no declaratory action judgment has to be granted in such particular matter. So the first thing which has been very well established, that for initiating a biosimilar application, you need to file your dossier or your ABLA application with the regulatory authority. That is the one thing which has been established through a couple of judgment. The next thing which has been contested here is another litigation relating to Amgen versus Sandoz, and that litigation is relating to filgrastim. So this is something landmark judgment relating to the biosimilar. So here what happened that this Sandoz, they developed that biosimilar molecule and they filed a dossier or their ABLA application before regulatory authority. And once their application has been accepted for the examination, the next day they inform to the innovator or the sponsor company that such and such particular application has been filed, and they wanted to launch this particular biosimilar molecule into the market. So here there is a provision in the statute that there has to be patent dance, there has to be exchange of the patent information with the sponsor product. But here the Sandoz has taken a stand that the statute, they have literally worded, or they have gone through that particular provision under section 262, wherein the word shall has been mentioned, that the biosimilar applicant shall provide the information to the innovator. And the court has interpreted, that district court has interpreted that shall doesn't mean that it is an obligation to the biosimilar applicant to comply with this particular provision, isn't it? So therefore, the court come to the conclusion in this particular case that there is no compliance. There is a provision of the patent dance, but the patent dance may or may not be done in case of the biosimilar litigation. So that is the one outcome from this particular case. And then second issue which has been contested by the Sandoz, because the second requirement relating to this particular launch of your biosimilar molecule, that 180 days before of the launching of your commercialization of your particular product, that you have to inform to the sponsor company. So here the Sandoz has taken a stand that on the day one, when I got the node that my application, my ABLA application has been accepted for the examination by the regulatory authorities. So that is the day you can consider as a notice, and after that particular day, I may be in a position to launch this particular product into the market. So during this particular period of time, this Sandoz has not involved into any first phase 1 litigation, and also they have given that the first information to the sponsor company, that is the notice for their commercial launch, and that triggered the second phase of litigation. So there was no first phase of the litigation, there was directly a second phase of litigation, and they applied for the preliminary injunction. And here in the court, they were in the opinion that the statute has been very clear, because that Sandoz has given the argument that the purpose of the biosimilar, because say for example under the Hatch-Waxman Act, wherein that NC-1 date is after the expiry of the 4 years, and then probably the generic company, they wanted to bring that generic company into the market just expiry of that particular patent. And here if you interpret the current statute, wherein the exclusivity is the 12 years, and then before commercialization of your particular products, before 6 months you have to give the notice to the innovator. So another 6 months added exclusivity will be getting to the sponsor company. So that was the stand basically the Sandoz has been taken, but basically the district court as well as the federal court, they have denied, and they have considered that 180 days notice has to be served. So this is the another requirement in case of the ABLA litigation. And recently a third litigation, that is the Amgen versus Apotex. This is the current litigation, wherein that Apotex, they have complied with the patent dance, but basically again they have challenged the 180 days period, because they feel that 180 days notice should not be given or something like that. So it is appeal before the federal court. So this is what exactly the biosimilar litigations which is at the current stage. And even the court, they are in the opinion that it is very complex sorts of structures, only the few things which has been encoding now. But as the more and more biosimilar applications which is going to file before the regulatory authorities, and it come for the litigation, so probably you may be in a better position to have a better visibility of the Biosimilar Act and the various statutory provision under that.